Hi everybody, welcome to Dandelion Cottage and Paper Crafting Saturday. I'm Leslie Watkins. I hope you're well. Today we're going to be doing some experimentation with gilding, and I'm going to be showing you how you can use your decorative watercolor paper. Remember, we made this on Wednesday. Alright, so I'm going to show you that in just a second. And I thought what I would do is just go over some of the gilding basics, like some of the different ways that you can add a little bit of shine and glimmer to your projects. We have a number of products that allow us to do that. I'm just going to focus on a couple of them today because otherwise it would take too long. And I do want to use the end result to show you how you can make a couple of different projects with it. So it's going to be a longer Paper Crafting Saturday today. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, and get ready for a fun session. So this is the picture I did. I worked on it a little bit after the video was over last Wednesday. This was a wet painting, so it was really saturated. So it was too wet to allow me to get any kind of drawing lines or details in it. So I added a couple of little strokes afterwards, and I also added some spatter. Okay. But I feel like for the purpose that I want to use this for, which is to make boxes, note cards, bookmarks, and other three-dimensional projects, I wanted it to have a little more sheen to it. This is pretty soft, and I like it. I love the soft quality of watercolors, and I have a couple of boxes right here that I did that have that beautiful soft quality. And in certain applications, I really love that. So this is a box I did some time ago. You can go back into the old video archives and find it on my YouTube channel, which is Dandelion Cottage. And there are a lot of videos there that you can go back and see all different types of projects and techniques. And then I just finished this box, which is very similar. Okay, so this is an explosion box that I just made in the box making workshop, and this is really pretty. The lid lifts off. By the way, it has that beautiful dragonfly from the Dragonfly Garden punch, and this has been gold embossed on vellum with some little pearls. And this is that wonderful ribbon that comes with the fine art floral, which I like very much. And then the rest of it is just layering up with the different color coordinating cardstocks and with the watercolor paper. And I added paneling around to all sides. So this is a great way that you can use your watercolor papers. And this box opens up like this to reveal the watercolor on the inside. And this is a wonderful way to showcase your watercolors when making 3D projects. If you're interested in learning how to make these boxes, then you can look into my box making workshop. And the way to do that is by subscribing to Notes from Dandelion Cottage. That's my newsletter that comes out on the first of the month, and you can do that at www.dandelioncottagedesign.com and go to Notes. And after the video today, I will also be posting the link to that, so you can find out more about box making, my watercolor card club, and lots of other classes I have coming right up. Okay, so let's talk about gilding. So I think many of you are familiar with heat embossing when we use the Versamark ink pad and stamp images and then use the heat tool to melt the embossing powder. But today I want to see if we could do some cold embossing. So what I mean by that is embossing that does not require heat. So I have one of my my water painters here. This is the smallest of the three in the package, so it's got a very fine tip point. Okay, and then I have some of the multi-purpose glue here, and I also have my silicone mat. So if you don't have a silicone mat, these are really great for using when you're working with glue, because you can put glue right on it and then peel it right off. It's very easy, clean up, doesn't make a mess. And let's see, let me find a scrap piece of paper here. So here's a little piece of scrap paper. So I'm just going to put a little dollop of glue there, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a spritz because I want to slow down the drying just a little bit. So this is slightly diluted, and now I'm just going to paint a little pattern . I know you can't see this very well. I can hardly see it. Okay, so there's a little bit of a pattern. Oops. Now I'm going to get my gilded leafing. And I've got this in a great big tub off to the side here. I'm going to open that very carefully because I don't want the flakes to go flying all over. Here's one ready to go. So I'll put that right on my painting there. Pressing that down, making sure I've got it all covered. All right, now I'm just using a soft brush to brush away the excess, and we'll see what happens. So there's one way that we can get that gilding leafing to stick to the paper, and that's quite nice. So that allows us to get a lot of nice shapes. Now another way you can do it, zoom you in a little bit more. Okay, now here I have some of the tear and tape. So I'm just going to take a little piece, run that across my scrap paper here, give that a good burnish, and then lift the backing. Okay, I'm just going to fold up that little excess and back on itself, and then the same thing. Just press that down really well. And then again with the soft brush, rub away the excess. Okay, so that gives us a very nice hard edge piece of gold decoration. Now, one of the things that that I particularly like is when you take a glue dot jumped away, hold on. Oh, that one lost its shape. Okay, I'm just going to put that here for the minute. See, it won't even stick to the silicone pad. All right, let's try that again. I want to try to keep the round shape as much as possible, but it's a little bit chilly in here today. Hasn't quite warmed up yet, so they're not peeling off very easily. I'm just going to make a little pattern here with 4 of these glue dots. All right, now let's try that. And that gives us a very nice little raised dot effect, which is very close to the sort of thing that you would see in a medieval manuscript. Okay. So there are 3 different ways that you can apply the gilded leafing using a cold method, meaning that we don't have to use our heat tools to warm up the powders. Let me see if I can clean that up a little bit. Now I'm just going over it with a much stiffer brush to get any of the loose pieces off. Okay, so there's our example of what we can do. So now let's go back to the watercolor. And I'm just trying, this is such a big tub. I have to clear a place for it so I can have both my watercolor and the gilded flakes handy. Okay, so let me zoom you back out again so you can see better what I'm working on. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my glue mixture, and I'm going to, you see it's already starting to set up a little bit, so I'm adding a little more spritz and a little more glue. And then keep that nice and diluted. And now I'm just going to paint some places on my picture. So maybe the stamens in my lily. This would be a good place to have some gold accent. Okay, now while that's still wet, I want to make sure I get my leafing on there. And I want to remind you, by the way, that this great big bucket of leafing was only a very small portion of that jar of the gilding flakes, the gilded leafing. There, I still have plenty that I haven't even taken out of the jar yet. All right, now how about we go around the edges of some of these rose petals. Okay, and I have to replenish my glue a little bit, so I'm going to add a little more water, a little more glue. Mix that together. Okay, now let's try some of these other flowers. We've got these beautiful stamens, so let's see if we can get some beautiful lines here. And this one. And I'm using the smallest brush in that set because I want to try to keep these lines as fine as possible. And I'll get this other flower on this side. And I'm not going to do the whole thing because it's going to take too long, but I'll do a good portion. So what if let's see if we can put some strokes on the bud here. Now, if you're making comments, thank you so much. I appreciate your comments very much, and I will look at them as soon as I'm able, but while I'm doing this I can't take the time to answer, but I will when I get the chance. Okay, and then we'll do the same here. Just going to put some little strokes. I hear the blue jays outside at the feeder. You know, there was a hawk out there the other day. I've had so much small bird activity at my feeder that I've attracted a hawk, and the blue jays were sending up an alarm, so I wonder if he's out there again. Alright, and then I think I'll just put a little bit here. And I'm just pressing this, making sure that I've got good adhesion into all the places where I painted the glue. And I see one other place that I might want a little sparkle, so let's just do here. It takes a little extra time. This is obviously not a technique that you would be doing at the spur of the moment when you needed a card fast, but it's certainly something that you could do and have these papers ready to go and prepared for your projects, and then you would be able to have something very special ready to go at a moment's notice. So I'm just going to rinse out my brush a little bit here. So I don't want the glue to stick to my brush. So I'm getting that a little bit wet and then wiping away with a tissue. Alright, put that aside for the moment. And now I'm going to try to clean up some of these loose flakes that are flying around here. Now I'm not done with this yet. This is just the first pass. And I don't want to wipe away everything just yet because that glue could still be damp. I just want to control some of the loose flakes. So I'm going to put this aside to dry now. And I'm going to make a little box that I can use to decorate with this paper that I'm making. Okay, so let me show you a sample of the box I'm going to be making. So it's this style of box, which is just basically a little cake box. Okay, this is very simple to do. It just uses one sheet of paper, and it measures 3.5 by 1 inch by 2 3/4. All right, so I'm going to take my paper trimmer. I've got a piece of Blushing Bride here. Okay, and I'm trying to remember, let me see if I can add this up. So 2 3/4, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so I think, I'm pretty sure this was just made from half a sheet of paper. So I don't have my measurements handy, so I'm going to be doing this on the fly with you. I'll show you how you can take a box and figure out the measurements. So this is 1 inch on all sides, and I'm using the measurer over on this side of the trimmer. If you don't have a trimmer, I really strongly recommend that you get one. They're only $25, and they will give you a beautiful straight cut and score every time. So they sort of have a built-in T-square, so there's a little bank along here that your paper rests, so that you can be sure that you have a perfectly square score or cut. Okay, so now let's just measure this. So that was 1 inch plus 2 3/4. So if I put this at 3 3/4, fingers crossed that I'm measuring this correctly. So 3 3/4 there, and 3 3/4 here, and that should leave us with a 1 inch, and it does. So it's just that easy. All right, so that's how to make a simple hinged box that will give you 2 from just one sheet of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. Now I'm just going along the long side, and I'm just making these cuts up to the first score line. Okay, and I'm going to give this a burnish so that you can see it better. Okay, so once you have this, you need to do some little angle cuts. So on this center square, I'm going to remove just a little wedge-shaped piece on either side. Okay? I'll give this one a little bit more of a trim here. Okay, and then the same thing on these tabs. Remove a wedge on each side. so that you end up with something that looks like this. Now I have a 3/4 inch punch here, and I'm going to go to the center and just snip out a little finger hole off of this is now going to be the bottom of my box, okay? Actually, I said that wrong. It's going to go this way. So this is going to be the top of the box. Okay, so the top of the box has the finger hole. So I'm going to now assemble the bottom of the box, and I'm going to start with these two. Alright, so I'm just going to fold that in, making sure that that corner is nice and neat. Okay. And then the same thing on the front. Okay, and now I'm going to grab my bone folder. I'm going to make sure that those tabs are well adhered to the corners. And then lastly, the top flaps and I'm just going to tuck those in. And I'm going to close my lid around the bottom to make sure that I have a perfect fit for my box. Okay, and I'm just going to hold that for a moment. Then burnish. Okay, and there's my perfect little box made from half a sheet of cardboard. Now we want to measure. So the top of the box is 3.5 by 2 3/4. Alright, so I'm just going to jot that down. So 3.5 by 2 3/4. Actually, look at that. It fits almost perfectly on there. Alright, and so I want to make my paper just a little bit smaller than that. So I'm going to take it down by 1/4 inch. So 3 1/4 by 2.5. Okay, and then the watercolor paper I want to be 3 by 2 1/4. So basically what I'm doing is I'm just reducing it by 1/4 inch each time. So I'm going to take a look at my artwork here, and I'm going to pick another color and see if I can find a color that will contrast nicely with the Blushing Bride. So I'm going to go over to my stash here. You know what? I was going to put a piece of contrasting cardstock, but I want to show you something else. I have another trick up my sleeve that I want to share with you. So instead of doing that, is everybody familiar with the Ferrero Rocher candies? If you're not, you should check them out. They're really good. These are chocolate hazelnut truffles, and they come wrapped in this beautiful thin gold foiling. Okay, and if you're very careful and take it off without tearing it, you can then take a tissue and just sort of flatten it out. You do that on both sides. Okay, once you have it, most of the wrinkles, you can take your burnisher and smooth it out even more. Okay, so you end up with something that looks like this. And what I like to do is taking my glue I can press that to the lid of my box. Okay, and then I can just tear away the excess. So if I just place my ruler along the edge, and there's another way that you can add gold gilding to your project. Okay? So that's kind of a fun thing to do. Now, let me get this glue out of the way before we have an accident. I'm going to go back to my paper now. And I'm going to remove the rest of this gilded leafing because I'm sure it's dry by now. And now I'm going to go back in with my stiffer brush Okay, so let's see how that looks. And that came out pretty good. All right, so there are some examples of glue brush strokes along with the gilded leafing. Now, I'd like to add some of those little dots. Remember what I showed you with the glue dots? Actually, I'll do that after. Let me tear this up first. It'll be easier for me to tear it up at this point than later. So, going back to my measurements here, I need a piece that's about 3 by 2 1/4. So I have to decide what I want to put on the top of my box, and I think I like these flowers for the top of my box. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start tearing my paper. So using my bone folder, so flip that over, do it again. I'm just going to do this several times to break down all of the fibers in the paper so I get a nice smooth tear. Okay. And let's see. Now every bit of this paper is useful, so I'm not going to discard any of it. Whatever's left over I'll just put aside in a little folder, and I'll be able to use it to make any kind of tags or bookmarks or note cards, whatever I like. Okay, now I have to measure at this point. So right about here. Okay, and then right here. Okay, now I also have a scrap of this beautiful ribbon left over, and let me see what I want to do here. We'll see about that. Okay, let's get back to those little dots. So I'm just going to peel off, let me get my poker tool. Just going to peel off a couple of these. Put one over here. And down here. I'll put another one right here. All right. Get out my tub, carefully opening the top. Here we go. There we go. All right, so there are those mini glue dots transformed into beautiful little raised gold dots. I think you can see that pretty well. Okay, all right, let's put our box together. Okay, so it's going to look something like that. I'm just trying to get this rubber band off of my ribbon. There we go. Okay, so there is my little glitzy gilded box where I took a very soft kind of a watercolor, all right, and I transformed it with a little bit of gold gilding leaves, whatever, and I applied it in a number of different ways. So I showed you the glue. I showed you how you can use the tear and tape to get a hard edge if you're looking for that kind of look. I showed you how to use the glue dots to get these beautiful little round shapes. Okay, so I hope that gave you some ideas of how you can use these gilding flakes. It does take a little bit of time. You do want to set the time aside to be able to do it and to do the cleanup afterwards, but it can be a lot of fun, and it gives you this wonderful sort of a rustic look. And of course I use the the gold candy wrapper around the edges for that foiling, which is fun to do too. Before we go, I want to share something with you. I was very fortunate last week to get a number of surprises from people on my team, and I wanted to show you some of the birthday cards and surprises that I got. So I found this beautiful thing hanging on the front doorknob in the middle of a snowstorm. And in it, you have to untie it here. I have a package of purple peacock broccoli seeds. And for those of you who are new here, I have peacocks. And so I have a lot of peacock feathers around that I use for decoration. And so here is an example of somebody who's giving me these beautiful peacock broccoli seeds. Thank you so much. And also in the box are some wonderful tea bags. This is the blueberry superfruit, and this is decorated with the Berry Blessings stamp set in this cute little pouch with the ribbon, all stamped and fussy cut. I also got this beautiful calligraphy envelope in the mail with stamping on the back, and this wonderful double flap fold card with a message inside, and this is all embossed, the designer series paper, and then these pieces die cut. Absolutely gorgeous. Thank you so much. Here's a birthday card with the wonderful doily embellishment, and she's added a little bit of the designer series paper on the inside of the card as well. Beautiful. This card is made with an echo print, so this is actually silk fabric. And these designs were made with actual leaves and flowers from the garden. And then she mounted it onto, I think this is the Granny Apple Green. So just gorgeous. And finally, I got this beautiful card. And this was actually made using one of the paper pumpkin kits, I believe. So thank you so much, everybody. To all the beautiful members of my team, you're all so creative and inspirational. I really appreciate being able to spend time with you all. And if anybody else is interested in joining my team, you would be welcome. Just go to dandelioncottagedesign.com, and there is a page there that says join. Just click on the join page, and it will give you all the information about what you need to do to to get your starter kit and join the team and all the different benefits, including free classes and a 20% discount on paper crafting supplies. And also there's a special going on right now. If you join the team before the end of the month, before February 28th, you will get 200 sheets of designer series paper, and that's a value of an additional $60 or so for free. And you would get to select $125 worth of paper crafting products for only $99 and get free shipping. So this is an extraordinary deal. So this is a great time to join. If you have any questions at all, just please contact me, and I'd be happy to walk you through it. And I'd love to have you join us. So thank you, everybody, for watching today. I'll be back on Monday for Marvelous Monday, and actually I think next Monday might be the beginning of the Creative Burst. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but I'm going to be doing 7 consecutive days of designs for cards and projects, all using things from the Sale-A-Bration brochure. And these are all things that you can get for free. So with every $50 you spend, you can select one of these free items. And I'm going to be featuring those things in the 7-day Creative Burst. So please stay tuned for that. Sign up for notes. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay warm, stay well, and stay creative. And I will see you next time.